Welcome to Reality Stories Hub. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Let me tell you about the worst night of my life. The night that somehow became the best thing that ever happened to me. It was our 5th wedding anniversary. 5 whole years of marriage. I spent the entire afternoon getting ready, wanting everything to be perfect. I picked out this beautiful blue dress because my husband once told me it made my eyes sparkle. I even went to that fancy hair salon downtown, the one where they never quite knew what to do with my thick curls, but I didn't care. I wanted to look perfect for him. The restaurant was the kind of place you see in movies. You know the type. Crystal lights hanging from the ceiling, white tables so clean they seemed to glow, and waiters who moved so quietly you barely noticed them. We had a reservation in a private room because my husband said he wanted our anniversary to be special and intimate. When I walked into that room, my heart was so full. I was smiling, genuinely happy, ready to celebrate us. Ready to toast to 5 years and hopefully 50 more. But the moment I saw his face, everything inside me went cold. He didn't stand up when I entered. He didn't smile. He just sat there with this hard look on his face, like he'd already made up his mind about something important. And then I noticed who else was sitting at the table. His mother was there, lips pressed together in that tight way she had. His younger brother sat beside her, looking uncomfortable, but also a little satisfied, like he was watching something he'd been waiting for. And there was David, his business partner, staring down at his plate like he wished he could disappear. This wasn't an anniversary dinner. This was something else entirely. I sat down anyway. I folded my hands in my lap the way I'd been taught, the way a good wife should. The way they'd spent 5 years trying to train me to behave. My stomach was twisting, but I kept my face calm. My husband cleared his throat. No flowers on the table. No champagne. No gift. Just that cold, distant look. "We need to talk about our situation," he said. Not happy anniversary. Not even hello. Just business. Cold and calculated, like I was sitting in a meeting, not across from the man I'd married. Before I could say anything, his mother jumped in. Her voice was sweet, but I'd learned that sweetness from her was dangerous. "Dear, you have to understand. The Harrison name means something in this city. It carries weight. It carries expectations." I knew what was coming. I'd felt it for months, maybe even years. But knowing something is coming doesn't make it hurt any less when it finally arrives. My husband slid a thick envelope across the table. Official looking. Heavy. I didn't need to open it to know what it was. "Divorce papers," he said flatly, like he was discussing a business deal. "I think this is best for both of us. You have to admit, this hasn't worked out the way either of us hoped. The way either of us hoped. Like I was the one who'd failed. Like I was the one who'd changed." His brother spoke up then, trying to sound kind but failing. "Look, we all tried. We really did. But you just never fit in with us. It's not your fault. You're just from a different kind of world, you know? A different world." That's what they called it. Like growing up in a small apartment with a single mom who worked night shifts was something shameful. Like not having money passed down through generations made me less than human. But then my husband said the words that changed everything. "You've been an embarrassment to this family from the beginning." His voice was quiet, matter of fact, like he was stating an obvious truth. "I don't know what I was thinking when I married you. I guess I got caught up in something different, something exciting. But this isn't working. You're not working. You never will. An embarrassment." I sat there feeling every eye on me. They were waiting for me to cry. Waiting for me to beg. Waiting for me to fall apart the way they expected. His mother nodded along. "You'll be taken care of course. The agreement we had you sign ensures that. You'll get a reasonable amount to start over somewhere else. Somewhere else. Away from them. Out of sight. Erased." David, the business partner, still wouldn't look at me. This man I'd sat next to at dozens of dinners and charity events, who I'd made polite conversation with for years. He just stared at his water glass like it was the most interesting thing in the world. My husband pushed the envelope closer to me. "Just sign them. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. I've already made other arrangements." Other arrangements. The young woman from his office. The one with the bright laugh who looked at him like he was some kind of hero. I'd known about her for almost a year. I'd seen the late-night messages he thought he was hiding. I'd smelled her perfume on his clothes. I'd known, and I'd said nothing. Because I'd been waiting. Planning. Building. I looked at that envelope. I looked at his smug face. I looked at his family's barely hidden relief that they were finally getting rid of me. And I smiled. I have something for you too, I said, my voice steady and calm. An anniversary gift. Since we're exchanging presents tonight. I reached into my purse and pulled out my own envelope. Thicker than his. Heavier. The confusion on his face was almost worth everything right there. But let me back up. Because you need to understand how we got to this moment. How a man looks at his wife of 5 years and calls her an embarrassment without a second thought. We met 6 years ago in Chicago. I was working as a software engineer at a tech company. I was good at my job, really good. I could see patterns in code that other people missed. I could solve problems that stumped entire teams. I was on track to become a senior developer before I turned 30, maybe even lead my own team. He came in as a client. His family owned a big hotel chain across the Midwest, and they needed their entire booking system redesigned. He was tall, confident, charming in that way that men with money always seem to be. And he pursued me like I was the only woman in the world. Flowers delivered to my desk every single day. Surprise lunch dates. Weekend trips to cabins by the lake. He made me feel like a princess in a fairy tale. The warning signs were there. I can see them now, looking back. The way he'd choose my outfits when we went to fancy dinners with his family. How he'd introduce me as my tech girl, instead of by my name. The way he'd change the subject whenever I talked about a project I was excited about at work. But I was young. I was flattered. And honestly, I was a little dazzled by the lifestyle he offered. Private boxes at concerts. Vacations to places I'd only seen in magazines. A world I'd never imagined being part of. We got married after 9 months. Too fast, way too fast. His family came to the wedding with smiles that never reached their eyes. His mother looked at me in my wedding dress and said, "How lovely," in a tone that made it sound like anything but a compliment. My own mother squeezed my hand before I walked down the aisle and whispered, "Baby, are you absolutely sure about this?" I should have listened to her. The first year was okay. Not great, but manageable. He wanted me to quit my job. Harrison wives don't work. His mother told me over brunch one day. It looks like the family can't provide. It's tacky. So I quit. I gave up the career I'd built from nothing. I gave up the projects I loved. I gave up the team that respected me. All because he said he wanted to take care of me. Take care of me. Like I was a pet that needed feeding. By the second year, I'd become invisible. I wasn't a wife. I was an accessory. Something pretty to stand next to him at hotel openings and charity events. Something to smile and nod when his business friends talked. I wasn't allowed to have opinions anymore. God forbid I mentioned anything about technology or coding at a dinner party. His hand would tighten on my arm, and later he'd tell me I'd made him look bad. His family was even worse. Every holiday felt like a test I was failing. My clothes were wrong. My hair was wrong. The way I talked was wrong. So urban, his brother said once. When I asked what he meant, he just laughed and walked away. I was lonely. More lonely than I'd ever been in my entire life. I'd lost touch with my college friends, my coworkers, even my own family. Visits home were inconvenient and not really necessary. I lived in a mansion and felt like I was drowning. But then, 2 years into the marriage, something happened. The hotel business hit trouble. Bad investments in properties that didn't pay off. Management problems. Guest satisfaction dropping. My husband was losing money fast, and his pride wouldn't let him admit he needed help. I watched him come home angrier every night. Watched him drink more, yell more, blame everyone but himself. And then mysteriously, a new investor appeared. Anonymous. Deep pockets. Pumped millions into the struggling hotels and saved the company from collapse. My husband strutted around for months after that, taking all the credit. His vision. His business genius. His ability to turn things around. He never asked who the investor was. Never wondered why someone would bail out his failing hotels. He just took the money and took the glory. That's when I decided. That's when I realized that if I was going to survive this marriage, I needed to be smart. Strategic. Patient. See, what my husband never knew, what he never bothered to ask about, was my grandmother. She raised me while my mom worked those night shifts. My grandmother, who started a small catering business from our kitchen, who grew it into 3 restaurants by the time she was 50, who taught me that being underestimated was sometimes the greatest advantage you could have. When she passed away just before I met my husband, she left everything to me. Money, properties, business investments, real money, the kind that came from hard work and smart decisions. It sat in a trust managed by Mrs. Chun, a brilliant lawyer who'd helped my grandmother build her empire and who'd promised to help me do the same. So while my husband thought I was at yoga classes and book clubs, I was meeting with Mrs. Chun. Learning. Planning. Using my grandmother's money and my own knowledge of technology and business systems to quietly, carefully insert myself into my husband's hotel empire. Every major contract over the last 3 years, I'd arranged it. That new booking system that increased reservations by 40%, I designed it through a consulting company I secretly owned. The mysterious investor who kept saving him from his own bad decisions? That was me. It had always been me. I slid my envelope across that anniversary dinner table and watched my husband's face as he opened it. At first, confusion. Then more confusion as he tried to make sense of what he was reading. Then understanding. Then absolute horror. What is this? His voice cracked, and I heard the fear in it. Ownership documents, I said calmly, like I was discussing the weather. I own 62% of Harrison Hotels. Every major investment over the last 3 years. Every system upgrade. Every property acquisition. Every bailout when you made bad decisions. That was me. The mysterious investor you've been bragging about. Me. All me. The silence in that room was beautiful. You could have heard a pin drop. His mother grabbed the papers from his shaking hands. Her face went completely white as she read. His brother's mouth fell open. David, the business partner, suddenly looked at me like he was seeing me for the very first time. That's impossible, my husband stammered. This is fraud. This is illegal. You can't just. You couldn't. I could, I said, my voice steady. And I did. While you thought I was doing nothing, being nothing, wasting my days, I was building an empire inside your empire. Every financial report that crossed your desk, I'd analyzed it first. Every property deal, every technology upgrade, every expansion plan. I'd seen it all, reviewed it all, approved or fixed it all. His brother found his voice. But you don't know anything about business. You're just what? I interrupted, looking him directly in the eye. Just the woman with a degree in computer science and business administration? Just the software engineer who was designing systems for Fortune 500 companies before I met your brother? Just the woman who actually reads financial reports instead of just signing them? I pulled out another document. I also finished my MBA online over the last 2 years. While you all thought I was taking cooking classes. The hotel booking system that increased your revenue by 40%? I designed it. The customer service AI that won awards? Mine. The property management software that cut costs by 30%? Also mine. My husband was shaking now, his face red. The prenuptial agreement. You signed it. You get nothing in a divorce. Oh, the prenup, I said, pulling out yet another document. You mean the one that Mrs. Chun, my lawyer, reviewed before I signed? The one you were so eager to have me sign that you never actually read it carefully? That prenup protects my assets, not yours. And since the major assets in this marriage are actually mine, well, I paused, letting that sink in. According to the terms, you get the settlement, not me. A fair amount to start over, just like you were offering me. Seems only right. His mother stood up so fast her chair nearly fell over. Now wait just a minute. There must be some mistake. We can work this out. We're family. Family, I repeated, and I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. Family doesn't call each other an embarrassment. Family doesn't make someone feel small for 5 years straight. Family doesn't mock where someone comes from or how they grew up. I pulled out one more envelope, thin but devastating. These are for your girlfriend, the one waiting for you in the lobby right now, thinking you're breaking up with your wife to be with her. Copies of every text message, every email, every hotel receipt from every affair. And yes, I said affairs plural. There were 4 others before her. I thought she deserved to know what kind of man she's getting. My husband lunged across the table. David grabbed him, held him back. I'd already texted security, and they appeared in the doorway at that exact moment. You can't do this, he was shouting now, all composure gone. I'll fight you. I'll destroy you. I'll take you to court. With what? I asked calmly. Your company? I own it. Your family's money? They're about to cut you off to save themselves. Your reputation? Let's see how that holds up when the business community finds out the truth about who really built your success. I stood up, picking up the divorce papers he'd brought. I signed them right there, my signature neat and clear. There's a board meeting tomorrow at 9 in the morning. They'll be voting on new leadership for Harrison Hotels. I have controlling interest. I have the votes. and you will be removed as CEO. His mother's voice was pleading now. Please, we can negotiate. There must be something you want. Money, a better settlement, anything. What I want, I said, picking up my purse, is my dignity back. What I want is to never again feel small in a room full of people who think they're better than me. What I want is to run the company I built without someone else taking credit for my work. I placed my wedding ring on top of the ownership documents. 5 years of my life compressed into a circle of gold. Happy anniversary, I said, and I walked out of that room with my head held high. Behind me, I could hear him shouting, his mother crying, David trying to calm everyone down. But I didn't look back. I just kept walking through the restaurant, past the other diners with their perfect lives, out into the cool evening air. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, breathing deeply. My phone buzzed. A message from Mrs. Chun, papers filed. It's done. You're free. I smiled. For the first time in 5 years, I smiled because I actually meant it. The battle wasn't over. I knew that. There would be lawyers and court dates and negotiations. His family would fight. He would make things difficult. But I'd already won. Because I'd taken back my power. I'd taken back my life. And I'd done it so quietly, so carefully, that they never saw it coming. The next few months were chaos for them. For me, it was like finally being able to breathe again after being underwater for 5 years. The board meeting happened exactly as I said it would. I walked in wearing my best suit, the one I'd bought secretly and kept hidden in Mrs. Chen's office. I carried my laptop and 3 years' worth of detailed financial reports that I'd compiled. The board members were confused at first. Some of them had been friends with my husband's father. They'd known the Harrison family for decades. They couldn't understand why this meeting had been called or why I was sitting at the head of the table instead of in the visitors' chairs where wives usually sat during board meetings. My husband showed up 20 minutes late, clearly hungover, clearly panicked. He tried to take control of the meeting. Tried to dismiss everything as a misunderstanding. That's when I presented the evidence. Every document, every ownership record, every anonymous investment traced back to my companies, every system improvement, every successful property deal, every turnaround. All me. I watched their faces change as they realized the truth. The mysterious investor who'd saved the company wasn't some faceless corporation. It was the wife they'd barely noticed at company dinners. The woman they'd made polite small talk with, and then forgotten about. The vote was unanimous. New CEO. New direction. Him out. He tried to fight it. Hired lawyers. Threatened lawsuits. But Mrs. Chun had made sure everything was airtight. Every document legal. Every transaction clean. There was nothing to fight. His family tried to stay connected to the business. His mother called me 17 times in 1 week. I didn't answer. His brother showed up at the hotel headquarters demanding to speak with me. Security escorted him out. I restructured everything. Brought in new management, people who actually knew what they were doing. Promoted employees who'd been overlooked. Implemented systems I'd been designing in secret for years. Within 6 months, revenue was up 30%. Guest satisfaction scores hit record highs. We expanded to 3 new cities. Industry magazines started writing articles about the turnaround, about the new leadership, about innovation in an old industry. They wanted to interview me. I said no at first. I wasn't ready. But Mrs. Chun convinced me. Tell your story, she said. There are other women out there who need to hear it. So I did 1 interview. Then another. And another. I talked about being underestimated. About being made to feel small. About building something while everyone assumed you were building nothing. The response was overwhelming. Women reached out from everywhere, sharing their own stories of being dismissed, overlooked, told they weren't enough. Messages flooded in from people who'd given up their careers for marriages that didn't value them. From people who'd been made to feel like their background made them less than. The divorce was finalized 4 months after that anniversary dinner. Clean. Final. He got his settlement, enough to live comfortably, but nowhere near the lifestyle he'd been used to. His lawyer tried to argue for more. The judge shut it down fast. His girlfriend left him after reading those documents I'd given her. Apparently, finding out you're the 5th affair changes how you see someone. She wrote me a thank you email. I didn't respond, but I appreciated it. His mother stopped calling once she realized I wasn't going to help maintain her lifestyle. She'd been living off the family business for years, and with the restructuring, that ended. Last I heard, she'd moved to a condo in Florida. Much smaller than the mansion she was used to. His brother tried to friend me on social media 6 months after everything went down. I blocked him immediately. My ex-husband got a job at a consulting firm, making decent money, but nothing like before. I heard through connections that he tells people he's between opportunities, and that the hotel business wasn't the right fit. He never mentions that his wife owned the company he thought was his. And me? I thrived. I merged my grandmother's restaurant properties with the hotel chain, created a hospitality group that combined lodging, dining, and event spaces. The business model was innovative, and it worked beautifully. I started an investment fund specifically for women-owned businesses, for entrepreneurs from backgrounds like mine, who had the ideas and the drive but not the connections, for people who got passed over by traditional investors because they didn't go to the right schools or know the right people. I reconnected with my mother. She flew out to visit, and I got to show her the headquarters, introduce her to my team, take her to dinner at one of our restaurants. She cried when she saw my office, with my name on the door and my grandmother's photo on the desk. "Your grandmother would be so proud," she said, holding my hand. "I'm so proud." I found my old college friends on social media. Apologized for disappearing. Most of them understood. We started having monthly video calls, and it felt like coming home. I even started dating again, though I took it very slow. There was a software developer I met at a tech conference. He was kind and funny and genuinely interested in what I had to say. He asked about my work and actually listened to the answers. We'd been seeing each other for 3 months, and it felt healthy. Real. Equal. People ask me sometimes if I feel guilty about what I did. If I regret the way things went down. If I think I was too harsh. The answer is no. Not even a little bit. Because here's what I learned through all of this. They didn't underestimate me because I wasn't capable. They underestimated me because my capability threatened everything they believed about themselves. Let me tell you what I really learned from all of this, because I think it's important. I think maybe you need to hear it too. For 5 years, I let them make me small. I let them convince me that being quiet meant being weak. That not fighting back meant I was accepting their version of who I was. But I was never weak. I was strategic. Every time his mother made a comment about my background, I smiled and took notes. Mental notes about how this family operated, what they valued, where their weaknesses were. Every time my husband dismissed my opinion, I researched more, learned more, built my knowledge until I knew more about his business than he did. Every time his brother made a joke at my expense, I invested more money, made smarter decisions, built a bigger foundation under my feet. They thought silence meant defeat, but my silence was preparation. See, my grandmother taught me something important before she died. We were sitting in her kitchen, the same kitchen where she'd started her catering business 40 years earlier. She was teaching me her recipe for peach cobbler, and we were talking about life. "Baby," she said, "people are going to underestimate you. Especially when you're a woman. Especially when you look like us. Especially when they think they know your whole story just by looking at you." She pulled the cobbler out of the oven, and the smell filled the whole apartment. "But here's the secret," she continued. "Let them underestimate you. While they're busy thinking they're better than you, you work. You learn. You build. And then one day, when they finally look up, you'll be so far ahead they'll never catch up." That's exactly what I did. My ex-husband called me an embarrassment. But the real embarrassment was how he treated someone who loved him. How he took someone capable and tried to make them incapable. How he needed me to be small so he could feel big. The gift I gave him that anniversary night wasn't revenge. It was truth. The truth that he'd never actually built anything on his own. The truth that his success was borrowed. The truth that the woman he called an embarrassment was the only reason he'd ever succeeded at all. And sometimes the truth is the most devastating gift you can give. I run my company openly now. My name is on everything. When I walk into a room, people know who I am and what I've built. I don't have to hide anymore. I don't have to pretend to be less than I am. I mentor young women now, especially women who remind me of myself. Women from backgrounds that don't open doors automatically. Women who are brilliant but have been told they're not enough. I tell them my story, not to encourage revenge, but to encourage patience. Strategy. The long game. Build your own foundation, I tell them. Don't wait for someone to give you permission to be powerful. Don't wait for someone to validate your worth. Know it yourself. Build it yourself. And when the time comes, stand on it. Last month, I gave a speech at a business conference. It was a huge event, thousands of people, and I was terrified. Public speaking had never been my thing. But I thought about all the messages I'd received from women who'd read my story. All the people who'd told me it helped them find their courage. I talked about being underestimated, about the power of quiet preparation, about building something so solid that when you finally reveal it, it can't be denied or taken away. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Afterward, hundreds of people came up to me, sharing their own stories, thanking me for sharing mine, telling me they'd been made to feel small too, but they were ready to start building. One woman in particular stayed with me. She was young, maybe 25, and she was crying. "I quit my engineering job to support my boyfriend's business," she said. "And he treats me like I'm stupid now. Like I don't understand anything. But I used to design systems for hospitals. I used to be so good at what I did." I held her hands and looked her in the eye. "You're still good at what you do," I said. "You didn't lose that when you quit your job. It's still in you. And when you're ready, you can build again. Stronger this time. Smarter." She nodded, wiping her tears. "How do I start?" "Small," I said. "Quiet. Learn everything you can about his business. About the industry. About finance and management and everything he thinks you don't understand. Build your knowledge. Build your resources. And when the time is right, build your future. With or without him." That's what I want you to understand if you're listening to this story. If you've ever been made to feel small, if you've ever been underestimated or dismissed or told you weren't good enough, you are good enough. You are more than enough. But sometimes, being enough isn't about proving it to the people who doubt you. It's about proving it to yourself. It's about building something so solid, so real, so undeniable that no one else's opinion matters anymore. My ex-husband thought he was giving me divorce papers that night. Thought he was ending our marriage on his terms, in his way, with his family watching me break down. But I gave him something better. I gave him the truth about himself. The truth that without me, he was nothing. The truth that the woman he'd tried to erase was actually the foundation everything stood on. And when I walked out of that restaurant, I wasn't broken. I was free. That's my gift to you too. This story. This truth. The knowledge that being underestimated isn't a weakness. It's an opportunity. So let them underestimate you. Let them think you're not paying attention. Let them believe you're not capable. And while they're busy congratulating themselves, you build your empire. Because you're not the embarrassment. You're not the disgrace. You're not the mistake. You're the force they were too blind to see coming. And one day, when you're ready, you'll show them exactly who you've always been.